All right, now for part 3 of our NFL draft recap and fantasy football draft preview, I have a special guest, Matty Ice. Welcome to the show, Matty.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on.
Yeah, no problem.
We'll get to it later. How you went to Vegas for the draft?
Yes, yeah. Plenty to talk about there.
All right. So first, we're going to go over the wide receivers that came out this year.
There were plenty of them.
Yeah, arguably this was the big position of the draft.
Yeah, and that's not including just the guys drafted. I mean, you're looking at a handful of trades made on draft day too.
That's true. All right, let's go. Garrett Wilson, drafted by the Jets, round 1, pick number 10. They're hoping Wilson's going to be their Swiss Army knife. He's a little bit short for a number 1 wide receiver. My NFL comp for him is Stephon Diggs. Low agility, not the kind of guy that really can go up and get the ball like you want for a number 1. 12 TDs this past year. I mean, really, this is a strong route runner, solid pick for the Jets. They're building a really solid offense there in New York. His speed is elite. He runs a 4.38. Really, he's got a lot of positives going on there. But again, the height, not quite what you'd want to see. So we'll see what happens in New York. They're going to pair him with Breece Hall. So then you got Elijah Moore. So you got a lot of good young players.
All right, Jameson Williams, pick number 12. Detroit Lions trade up to pick their guy. This is the guy I would have wanted if I was in that spot too. Great size, 6'2", 4.25 speed on the outside. You can't teach that. Got an interesting story. Couldn't sniff the field at Ohio State. He's behind a couple other guys we're going to be talking about a little later on. Transfers over to Alabama behind John Mechie and Devontae Smith. Jalen Waddle moves to the NFL. He gets his starting spot. Takes advantage of it. Throws up 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns last year. Blazing speed, big playability, 19-yard average per catch. Then the national championship game comes along, tears his ACL, unfortunately. So now the question becomes, is he going to be ready come training camp? NFL comp for him, I'd say, is probably a Deshaun Jackson.
Right. Jahan Dotson runs a 4.43. Taken a little bit high by the Commanders. 16th pick of the first round. A lot of people thought that was a little high. They expected him to go lower. Another guy, low agility scores for a top receiver. And he's definitely undersized. But he, again, elite speed. My NFL comp, going back to the greatest show on turf, Oz Hakeem. Which, again, maybe is not the kind of guy you want for a number 16 overall pick. But, similar to Wilson, just maybe not as high of a caliber. Fast guy, a little bit undersized. They need to pair him with McLaurin, so McLaurin doesn't get double teamed. McLaurin hasn't really had a partner in the wide receiving room there, and now he does in Dotson.
Christian Watson, round 2, pick 34. Green Bay shocks the world and actually picks a wide receiver for once. Is this going to be the right guy? It's hard to say. Guy comes from an FCS school, being guarded by guys who are probably PE teachers right now. So it's going to be a tough transition for him, dealing with actual NFL caliber cornerbacks. Stats don't really blow me away. 43 catches, 800 yards, 7 touchdowns, again in an FCS school. The benefit for him is the wide receiver room he's going into. You're looking at the corpse of Sammy Watkins, Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard. The guy's going to get some targets. He's got to use that big playability that he's got to actually start making some plays. And, Rodgers doesn't like throwing to the rookies all that often, so he's going to have to work hard in practice, gain that trust. NFL comp is another guy from the Packers. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I see a lot of him in Christian Watson.
Here's your top-ranked receiver for most of the year, Treylon Burks. He's rumbling, he's bumbling, but he ain't stumbling. This guy, they use him as an H-back in Arkansas. There's a little bit of that Debo in him. Had 8 yards per carry at Arkansas, 12 total touchdowns. My NFL comp for Treylon Burks would be a combination of Josh Gordon and Jordy Nelson. Not too bad at all. Needs a little work on his route running because they didn't really use him as a straight-up wide receiver. Like I said, he was a little more of that H-back type. His 40 time, a little bit slower than people wanted to see, a 4.55. Titans got him to replace A.J. Brown after trading Brown. 18th overall pick in the first round. That's good value for what people expected. He could have been probably went a little bit higher. Very solid wide receiver.
All right, George Pickens, round 2, pick 20, goes into the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's a good spot for him. Came into Georgia, became an immediate contributor as a freshman with 49 catches, 8 touchdowns. Comes back the next year, unfortunately, a little bit of a COVID-shortened season. In 4 less games, he was able to keep that technical production. Unfortunately, tears his ACL before 2021 season. Comes in, actually makes the last 4 games leading into the national championship game. It's a little quiet. 5 catches for 107 yards. That includes a 52-yard touchdown in the national title game. Compare him to Devontae Parker.
Chris Olave. This guy has everything you want. This guy has the good agility, unlike Wilson and Dotson. Very strong agility, scores elite speed, goes up and gets the ball. Ohio State's all-time leader in receiving touchdowns, 15 yards per catch last season. My NFL comp, another Ohio State guy, Terry McLaurin. Olave to the Saints is a perfect fit. Without Thomas, he could be the number 1. If Thomas is back, which he should be, then you pair Olave with Michael Thomas. That could be a real dangerous combination. Winston has the ability to throw the deep ball, and maybe they'll let Winston loose this year.
All right, Drake London out of USC going to the Falcons. Round 1, pick number 8. Great size on the outside. Turns a lot of those 50-50 balls into wins for his team. He's got the ability to play out of slot. Had a productive first 2 years at USC, then explodes last year for 88 catches, 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Ideal landing spot for him. He's going to take over the number 1 target with Calvin Ridley missing the season. The one thing I would watch out for with fantasy is you now have to watch out for Kyle Pitts as well. How much are they going to cannibalize each other? Those targets, unfortunately, are also going to be coming from Marcus Mariota, who hasn't exactly proven himself as a top-level NFL starter yet. But I see a lot of Marcus Colts in them.
David Bell out of Purdue. Horrible combine. Couldn't have probably went any worse. Ran a 4.65. But this guy plays faster than that. Strong route runner, great hands, incredible body control. If you watch the footage, you can see some of these incredible catches he makes going backwards. Just an incredible wide receiver. You're looking at a reliable possession wide receiver. Almost 1,300 receiving yards this past year and almost 100 catches. My NFL comp, Chris Godwin. Not another guy that went a little bit, wasn't a first rounder. Browns got him with the 35th pick of the 3rd round. Really doesn't get much better than that. They could pair him on the other side of Amari Cooper. This guy could be one of the big sleepers of this draft. Watch out for David Bell.
Here's another guy that could turn into a bit of a sleeper, probably not rookie year, but later down the line. Khalil Shakir out of Boise State. Does a little bit of everything. I see a little bit of Deebo Samuel with him, taking some carries out of the backfield. Elite skills to make tacklers miss, which I think is going to be huge for him. You can imagine a scenario where Josh Allen is running around in the pocket, trying to find someone to get to, breaks out to the outside, and Shakir is just streaking down the field. Lack of size is a concern, but again, with that ability to make tacklers miss, you get him the ball in the open field, he can make things happen. I see a lot of Nate Burleson in him. Similar size, kick return capabilities, someone who's going to come in, not be a focal point of the offense, but can evolve into one.
John Mechie out of Alabama, a little bit undersized at 187 pounds, probably needs to bulk up a little bit. Tore his ACL in the SEC Championship versus Georgia. Before that, here's another guy that had almost 100 catches. Didn't really get a chance when he was buried behind Judy, Ruggs, Devontae Smith, Waddle. Finally got his chance. Unfortunately, he got hurt. This guy could be a steal for the Texans in the 2nd round. NFL comp from me, Robert Woods. This guy can be a real complimentary receiver. Probably not a number 1, but a very strong number 2. Really, this is a great pick for the Texans as they continue their rebuild. I really don't see any downside there.
All right, got Calvin Austin. Pittsburgh Steelers take another receiver trying to replace Juju Smith-Schuster. 2nd-team All-American, 4x100 meter dash, so he's definitely got some speed. Problem is he's only 5'8" and 170 pounds. He's going to have to learn to make tacklers miss. Otherwise, he's not going to last very long in the NFL. I project him as a slot target. He's going to need that quick release because if cornerbacks get those hands on him, he's not going to be going anywhere. Experience as a punt returner, which is good for special teams, is probably where he's going to have to make his mark earlier in his career. NFL comp, I see, a Tutu Atwell, someone out of Louisville last year who the Rams took in the second round, didn't sniff the field. It may be a similar story where he's getting some special team snaps to try to prove himself. Maybe he gets, the ball in the open space is really where his skill set's going to come in. A lot of the bubble screens, some quick screens, maybe a carry or two out of the backfield, see what he can do with the ball once he gets into that open field.
And here's another Austin, Kevin Austin out of Notre Dame. How was this guy not drafted? Elite speed, elite agility, explosive, great height, solid weight. I mean, you couldn't have done better with the combine. With that said, only had 6 catches before his senior year. So that's definitely why he wasn't drafted. Jaguars get a steal here by signing him as a priority undrafted free agent. My NFL comp for Kevin Austin would be DJ Chark, who happened to be another Jaguar who now moved on to the Lions. Jaguars are just continuing to try to add pieces to help Trevor, and this is another guy. If you watch these clips, this guy can run. Great receiver.
All right, then we got Sky Moore out of Western Michigan. Gets picked by the Kansas City Chiefs, making a bid to try to replace Tyreek Hill. The guy that's going to do it, in my opinion, was a 3-year starter. Did have a massive final year with 95 catches, 1,300 yards, 10 touchdowns. Impressive vertical speed, but I don't see the separation being consistent. Tremendous ball skill, shows off the ability to go get the deep ball. Mahomes will be able to put the ball in a position where only he can catch it. Has the most value out of the slot, and will need to learn more effective route running and show off that ability to get open consistently in the next level.
Jalen Tolbert, one of my favorite receivers going into this draft, had a great week at the Senior Bowl. Very solid wide receiver, dominated at South Alabama in the Sun Belt, had almost 1,500 yards receiving, 18 yards a catch. My NFL comp for Jalen Tolbert, a skinny Braylon Edwards, for those who remember Braylon Edwards. Tolbert did plenty of catches with Amari Cooper moving on from the Cowboys. Plenty of opportunity there in Dallas to work with Gallup while Gallup recovers, and on the other side of Lamb. Really, Tolbert, the sky's the limit. Now we have Bellis Jones from the Chicago Bears. Took Jones. This guy has incredible speed. They took him a little bit higher than people expected Jones to go. The Bears probably could have used more of a very clear number 1 wide receiver to help out Fields. But this is where they got Jones, and we'll see what happens with him in Chicago. All right. So, Matt, you went to Vegas this year for the draft, right?
Yeah. Going to the draft in person has been on the bucket list for a while. Finally got the opportunity. I'd do it again tomorrow if I could. Great trip. Had a great time.
Yeah, so there was a couple memorable moments there. How far away were you from the stage?
Well, Vegas kind of got the best of me the night before, so I was a little late getting to the draft. But I mean, you had to be there super early if you wanted to get anywhere near the tent that they had set up. I mean, there were probably 80 to 90,000 people there by the time I got there. So I mean, I was pretty far back. So I stood near the main, as close as I could get to the main stage for the first couple of picks. And then I moved over towards where the Bellagio fountain is. They had a big screen and stuff like that, where it was a little more relaxed atmosphere, where I could kind of just chill out and watch the draft go down.
Oh yeah. What would you say was your favorite moment?
Probably, I'm a Patriots fan.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. I had several people ask me beforehand who I think the Patriots are going to take in round 1, and I told every single one of them they're going to trade down.
I'm going to guess you were wrong about this one.
No. So, of course, they traded down. And I'm looking at what's available, and I'm thinking they're going linebacker. I wanted Nakobe Dean. He's sitting there. Nakobe Dean continues to fall. And then they go out and they pick, a guard from someone I've never, ever heard of. And I like to think I know football pretty well. I had never heard of Cole Strange a day in my life. Now, that being said, as a Patriot fan, I was able to talk myself into that pick real quick. But, seeing the reaction out of some of the people at the draft when that name was announced, it was a highlight for sure.
Do you think Belichick does it on purpose just to try to look like a genius?
Part of me says yes. Um, and that goes back to him taking on, Tim Tebow after he flames out with Broncos and the Jets. I'm going to take Tim Tebow. I'm going to make him into a star and show all you guys. It didn't work out that way, obviously, because it's Tim Tebow. But yeah, he's got that arrogant side to him for sure.
Yeah, but, I mean, in doing so I started a dynasty league a year or two ago, and in doing a league like that, you kind of see how you really have no choice but to take the guy that you want, because if you don't, you risk somebody else doing the same thing the Patriots did. You
Sure.
don't know if someone else will reach and take him. So,
Mhm.
if that's the player you want, take him.
Yeah, and it's hard to argue with the success they've had.
Right. Right. Although they did say the Patriots haven't drafted an all pro since Gronkowski. Did you read that? I was.
Yeah, I mean, that very well could be true. I'm hard pressed to think of one. I think Mac Jones will get there.
Well, I think the Patriots, have been good at accumulating good players that maybe weren't all pros, like a James White,
Right.
even Sony Michel, when he had his good years there. Edelman. I don't think Edelman made many Pro Bowls.
No, and that's been Belichick's MO pretty much from the start. If you give him the choice of spending $20 million on one player or spending $5 million each on four good players, he's going to take those four every single time.
Right. And that has been their MO, to trade down, accumulate good players. And I think that's helped them because, if you look at a team, like I was talking about earlier, like McLaurin, where he gets double teamed, or the Falcons, where you knew it was going to go to Julio Jones, the Patriots, you never know who it's going to go to.
Right. Yeah. The depth of the team is built rounds 4 through 7. So he's constantly trading back to get as many picks in there, and you strike gold every now and then. You get a Brady in the 6th round, something like that. You can't predict that kind of stuff. So the more balls you've got in the lotto machine, the more likely you are to hit.
Right. Absolutely. So I don't mind the pick. I thought it was entertaining seeing Sean McVay's reaction.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought that was pretty funny, but I thought it was all in good fun. Belichick, Belichick's on his boat. I don't know, what is it, 7 rings? What is he?
Yeah, yeah.
No, he's on his boat right now. Actually, right now they're getting ready, but
yeah. And the paint's always ready to change that over to an 8.
Yeah. So Belichick's doing fine. He's not bothered by McVay laughing. All right, so we got Vegas. So I was going to ask you about. Did you see the reaction from the New York Giants fan when he was announcing that pick, and then the Buffalo Bills? Did you see when the guy from NFL Network announced that pick? Did you get to see either of those?
I saw the Giants. I missed the Buffalo one.
Well, I guess in the Buffalo one, he said that he announced them as the Super Bowl champion for next year.
Oh, okay.
While announcing the pick.
Yeah.
But that was a little brazen.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking, draft introduction and all that stuff, you're not going to beat Pat McAfee's from like 4 years ago. So I think everyone's kind of competing for second place.
Right. No, absolutely. I think, though, if I were the Buffalo Bills, I don't know if I'd appreciate, that kind of that never works out. Remember when Rex Ryan guaranteed a Super Bowl trip or playoff trip? It never goes well, except for Joe Namath. When has a prediction like that worked out?
Yeah, I mean, it puts that pressure on the team that I don't think anyone wants, especially in May. I mean, we've still got a while before we, name rosters and stuff like that. I think it's a little early to be talking about Super Bowl, but I can understand you're on that stage in front of that many people. Adrenaline kind of takes over. Whether it was planned or not, probably knew what he was going to say going up there. Be interesting to see how the team reacts to that one. I mean, Buffalo's a solid team. I think they've got a very good roster. As long as they don't run into any more overtimes, I think they'll be all right.
Well, I think if I were a Buffalo Bills, I wouldn't appreciate it because he's not on the team. It's like, dude, you don't have to tackle anybody.
True.
So maybe hold off the predictions. Like you said, until we get through training camp at least. But the Buffalo Bills really, there is a lot of hype behind them right now, and I love that pick. You had Shakir with the Bills on your list, and that's a great pick. The Bills are drafting really well.
Yes. Which is, why Giants actually did very well in this draft, because they took someone straight from Buffalo who knows what he's doing.
Right. Yeah, so that division is looking a lot tougher now.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Philly had a hell of a draft too.
Right, the Dolphins revamped. Oh, you're talking about the NFC East.
Yes, yeah. Well, both of them. I mean, both NFC and AFC East, they're rapidly improving.
Yeah, both Easts have been weak the last couple of years.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So the draft. I like how it goes to different cities now. I mean, we're both from New York.
Yep.
Right, you're from New York too.
Yes.
And that was kind of growing up. That was a thing. Like, we have the draft.
Yeah.
But it's kind of neat now. It goes to different cities.
Yeah, it's changed a lot too. I mean, now you're in prime time. I remember waking up on a Saturday morning. Darn thing would start at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning, where you'd be running through the first three rounds, and you go right into the next day. And now you're looking, one draft, 4.5 hours on a Thursday night for just the first round.
It's funny you said that. I felt like it went faster than it used to.
This one especially, yeah, I think this one went faster. I think it's because some of those surprises that went in, where teams didn't have to think as much. Once, number 2 pick, for example, was turned in about 15 seconds.
Yeah.
There were a lot more. I mean, there's surprises every single year, but it feels like there were a lot of curveballs thrown out there this year.
There's been way more trades in the NFL than in our whole lifetime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Just look, you had 10 teams didn't even make a first round selection. These draft picks are starting to get, traded back and forth all over the place. And I imagine the NFL can't like that, because now you're looking at 10 NFL, fan team bases that probably aren't turning in on night one. Right. So I'm curious to see, if, old corrupt Goodell could do something about that. I don't know. I don't know how much you can really police that.
You would think somebody would give him some acting classes to get better at hyping the crowd up. He doesn't sound very enthusiastic.
Yeah. Lipstick on a pig. You can't do it.
I mean, you're calling up Ice Cube onto the stage.
Yeah.
Show a little, be a little more enthusiastic. Come on, Ice Cube. Come on up. But, yeah, I mean, I love the draft. I mean, my friend texted me the day before that NFL Christmas is tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, with how long the off season is, that's really almost your halfway point. Once you get past that, you're this much closer to actual football. So I think that's why we look forward to it as much as it is. You throw in the intrigue, and everyone has high hopes coming out of this thing. So I think it all kind of plays into it.
It is amazing seeing the teams with multiple first round picks. The New York Giants you'd mentioned, they arguably got the 2 highest ranked players on a lot of people's boards.
Absolutely. That's where you come to. Do you value, someone like Trayvon Walker going number 1? Guy had 6 sacks in his entire career. Do you value results, or do you value the potential? That's where it comes down to. The teams in front of them kind of valued potential for the most part. Now they lucked into a spot where I was surprised that they took Thibodeau first as opposed to Neal, and not have their choice of which tackle they wanted. I think Thibodeau definitely would have been there at number 7, because 6 was definitely going to be an offensive tackle to begin with. But it seems like they got their guy, so it worked out for him.
Yeah, Neal really slipped there a little bit. He could have easily been the number 1 overall pick.
Yes. Yeah, I'm wondering if picking him second doesn't have something to do with financials, because now you get into that 5th-year option. You have to pay less for a rusher than you do a left tackle. So I'm wondering if that had to come into it.
Yeah, a lot of people were surprised that the Seahawks took Kenny Walker for that reason, that you're taking a running back in the 2nd round where the guaranteed money or the rookie contract money will be comparable to if he was a solid starter.
Right. And that's why you saw so much wide receiver movement. Now it's like, you draft your guy, you get your production for 4 years. When he's ready to sign a new contract, you let him go somewhere else, draft somebody else. It's the same thing when Russell Wilson came along. That was the strategy for quarterbacks going forward. And now it's moving to the wide receiver. I don't know if it'll ever go to the running backs. There's just so many, and the value just isn't there. But, it's interesting to see, next year, are we going to do the same thing? Is it going to be even more so because of this year? More wide receivers going to go early.
This is big money. And I mentioned it on a show with Football Mark. he loves the Devontae Adams trade, and there's no arguing that Adams is not an incredible receiver. But you're talking about a guy who's 29 years old. How much of the production can you credit to Aaron Rodgers? We'll find out. But these are big. Even the Dolphins. I live in Miami, or I live outside Miami, and we're excited about Tyreek Hill. But these are big numbers that receivers are getting.
Absolutely. It's, are they ever going to earn that $28 million a year? I'm hard pressed to see it.
That's why I wasn't really shocked what the Titans did. I thought they actually, thought that was actually kind of smart, because if Burks can replace most of AJ Brown's production, and then you also brought in Robert Woods, I mean, you're getting two guys for maybe for less than the price of one.
Especially for a team that runs through Derrick Henry to begin with.
Right. That's a great point. You're a running team anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, the Patriots have been doing it. We mentioned them earlier. They've been doing it for years. They don't overpay guys.
Right. Yeah, that's always been Belichick's thing. Is I'd rather let a guy go 1 year too early than 1 year too late.
I'm getting a little uncomfortable complimenting the Patriots too many times.
Hey, I'll keep doing it all day long.
But there's no taking away what they've been able to do through the draft. And even Jimmy Johnson back in the 90s with the Cowboys built that team.
Yeah, I mean, to this day, his draft chart is referenced every single pick of every single draft. Whenever a trade comes up, it's his chart that you refer to make sure you're getting the right value.
100%. All right, so to wrap up our NFL draft show, who would you say was your big sleeper? What was your favorite pick? Who was the biggest sleeper, the biggest steal?
Let's see. I would say, I don't know if it's necessarily a sleeper, but my favorite pick is Jordan Davis to Philly. I think he's going to be a monster for years to come. Fletcher Cox isn't going to play forever. He's going to slide right in there. That whole draft class that Philly got, plus adding on an AJ Brown, they are going to be trouble as long as they get a quarterback. Now Jalen Hurts, he's got his strengths. He's definitely got his weaknesses. Now he's got no excuses. He's either going to do it this year or they're going to move on. So I like all the moves that they made in order to decide, okay, is this the guy? But yeah, Jordan Davis, I think, is a beast. He's a guy I wanted to somehow miraculously slip to 21. Knew it wasn't going to happen. Maybe he'll twist an ankle or something, but I think he's going to be a great pro.
Right. And then I would say mine, I mentioned it in the quarterback show. I think Desmond Ridder, there is nothing to lose there for the Falcons, taking him in the third round. His NFL comps are Ryan Tannehill. I see a lot of potential for a Dak Prescott kind of situation, where Dak went in the second round, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. So I felt like Dak could really turn out to be the steal of the draft. Getting Ridder in the third round it was a perfect fit with the Falcons.
And I mean, if you're talking perfect fit, just look at Pittsburgh. Drafting a quarterback who trains in your facility, that's huge. The guy's been there since he was 12 years old. I whether he's got the talent to go on, we'll see. But I think it's a great spot.
You think they were thinking about when they didn't draft Marino back in the day?
That very well could be. I think there were a lot of teams thinking that.
Yeah. No, we're keeping this guy in Pittsburgh this time.
Yes.
All right, brother. Well, I thank you so much for being on the show. It really was a blast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a great time. Always willing to talk football.
We'll do it again next draft.
Absolutely.
All right, that was this week's NFL draft recap and fantasy draft preview, and we'll see you all next week.
How their boards fall and who you think they might be plugging in, because you're assessing, which phone calls to pick up.
Definitely, a lot of times if as an example, you really
just went.
Oh, my UT Chattanooga to the first round. Hey,
How about that? And we wasted our time watching him, thinking he'd be at 104, maybe.
do we have anybody in the room who recruited Cole Strange? Raise their hand. Okay, there we go. That's
No,
awesome.
it-
This
once
is
it
what's
gets-
fun
once
here.
it gets
This is,
closer to our pick is usually when things. heat
you know
up.
what's awesome about
Yeah.
Cold Strange? UT Chattanooga, what jumped off the screen is when he takes a first step, it's about as quick a first step as an offensive lineman can take.
You guys still feel good about the 4 to 5 positions you might potentially be eyeing in 104 after today?
Ask us at 103.
Sean's a little nervous.
Oh, listen. Yeah, I am a little nervous. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a long wait.
Do you guys talk? I mean, obviously you talked beforehand, but what's the debate like? Maybe one person is itching to trade back on more picks, where there's a gap in your pick points, and then one person is really in love with the.
Where's Jake Timmy at? We just had that discussion yesterday in the draft room.
I will say this, Jordan. We are very much aligned in a lot of our thoughts, but every decision that we make is unified, and it's going to be it'll be an exciting next couple of days. That's for sure. But there's a lot of guys that we like, and like I said the other day, we're going to find some players that are going to help us this year.
Thanks, guys.